Hi everyone, welcome to Storytime. I'm Sarah, a children's librarian at the Main Library.
Hi, my name is Catherine. I'm a children's librarian at the Main Library. Thanks for joining us.
Pair of Underwear, words by Aaron Reynolds, pictures by Peter Brown. Creepy pair of underwear. Jasper Rabbit needed new underwear. On Thursday, Mom took him to the underwear store and grabbed the last 3 packages of plain white. But as they headed for the checkout, Jasper spotted them. Creepy underwear! So creepy, so comfy. They were glorious. Mom, can we get these? Jasper pleaded. Well, I think they're a little too creepy, said Mom. They're not creepy. They're cool, said Jasper. I'm not a little bunny anymore. I'm a big rabbit now. Mom agreed to buy 1 pair. That night, Jasper wore his cool new underwear to bed. Do you want me to leave the hallway light on? Asked Dad. Dad, I'm not a little bunny anymore, said Jasper. I'm a big rabbit now. His dad shut the door. And that's when Jasper noticed the underwear glowed, a ghoulish, greenish glow. He closed his eyes. He pulled up the covers. He buried his face in the pillow. But it didn't help. He could still see that ghoulish, greenish glow. Jasper leaped out of bed and put on a pair of plain white. He stuffed the creepy underwear into the bottom of his laundry hamper. He finally fell asleep. But when he got up the next day, he was wearing the creepy underwear. Jasper threw them into the garbage can. He was still a big rabbit. He wasn't scared or anything, but he was done with scary underwear. After school, Jasper was doing his homework when he heard it. A scratchy, scraping sound coming from his dresser. He opened the drawer and they were back, staring at him with that ghoulish, greenish glow. He snatched the creepy underwear out of the drawer. He grabbed a big envelope and some stamps. To China. Bye-bye, scary underwear, he said, dropping the package in the mailbox. When he opened the door the next morning, there they were. And were those chopsticks? His creepy pair of underwear had somehow returned from China, and it had brought back souvenirs. That's cool. Jasper grabbed his mom's good sewing scissors. She didn't like him using them, but this was an underwear emergency. Chop, 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 chop. This time, the creepy underwear were gone for good. At bedtime, he slowly opened his underwear drawer. Nothing, just plain white undies. He searched under the bed. He shook out his lampshades. Whew! There was no sign of creepy underwear. He went into the bathroom to comb his ears. They were back! What's the matter with you? His mom asked. You're so jittery lately. Nothing, he yelped. A grown rabbit couldn't be terrified of his underpants. He seized the underwear. He snagged a shovel from the garage and he rode. He didn't stop pedaling until he reached Creekhanger Hill. Jasper began to dig. He dug until his hole was dark and deep and 100% underwear proof. He dropped the underwear in. They gleamed from the bottom, that ghoulish, greenish glow. But not for long. He covered them up with all that dirt. When he got home, Jasper crept up to his dresser. They couldn't be in there. There was no way. Right? He reached for the handle. He peeked in. Nothing, just plain white. Jasper smiled and turned out the light. There was just one problem. It was really dark in there, even for a big rabbit. Jasper turned on the light. He looked at his non-glowy pair of plain white, and he knew what he had to do. He's digging them up. The creepy underwear were a little muddy, but they still filled the room with that gentle greenish glow. The next day, Jasper gathered his allowance money and went to the underwear store all by himself, just like a big rabbit. That night, Jasper wasn't scared at all. As he lay down to sleep, he smiled. And so did his underwear, because they had finally found somebody who wasn't scared of creepy underwear.
Today we are going to read The Skeleton in the Closet by Alice Schertle, illustrated by Curtis Jobling. Late one night, I was sound asleep, snoring like a motorcycle, cuddled down deep in my crocodile comforter, snug as a clam, when I thought I heard a knocking. Bam, bam, bam. Someone at the door? I sat up straight. Who would come a-knocking on my door so late? In my spaceman jams, I crept downstairs and tiptoed to the window in my bedroom slipper bears. I moved the curtain and peeked through the crack, and 2 empty eye holes stared right back. White bones, bright bones, night bones glowing, bare bones, scare bones, teeth all showing, and a big, wide, petrified grin. A deep down voice said, "Let me in." I ran like a rabbit. I took the stairs 3 at a time in my bedroom slipper bears. Into the bedroom, slammed the door. I stood there shaking in the middle of the floor, when suddenly a noise made my knees grow weak. Someone on the staircase? Creak, creak, creak. Bones on the first step? What do they want? Second step? Third step? Bones on a haunt? Fourth? Fifth? Sixth step? White bones walking? Seventh step? Eighth step? Night bones talking? Ninth step, 10th, bones coming upstairs. I jumped right out of my bedroom slipper bears and I dived inside my nice safe bed with my nice safe pillow on top of my head. But I heard every word that Bone Man said. I got a big hollow head bone, ribs in a row. I got hip bones, thigh bones, knee bones below. I got 2 shiny shin bones and little bone toes. But I'm wearing no skin, so everything shows. Coming up to find some skeleton clothes. 14, 15, very last stare, he was looking for something his bones could wear. And what did he mean by skeleton clothes? Waterproof skin? And a nose that blows? Bones out shopping, goodbye skin? The door burst open and Bones walked in. He walked straight to the closet and helped himself to whatever he could find on the underwear shelf. Spaceman underpants, polka dots plaid, tanks and t-shirts, whatever he had. Trying on jackets, tying on ties, buttoning buttons, zipping up flies, rattling hangers, banging around trying and tossing whatever he found. But when he came out, I'd have to say he was looking good in a skeleton way. He boogied across the bedroom floor, gave a thumbs bones up, and was out the door. He was gone at last, I don't know where, but wherever he is, his bones aren't bare. So, if a skeleton calls on you tonight and he's wearing clothes, they're mine all right. But you might not hear him when he climbs your stairs. He'll be quiet, quiet, quiet in my bedroom slipper bears.
The Baby That Roared by Simon Puddock, illustrated by Nadia Shireen. I do love this book. The Baby That Roared. Mr. and Mrs. Deer had no baby of their own to love and cuddle and read stories to. But oh, how they wished they did. Then, one day, they found a bundle on the doorstep. The bundle had a note attached which said, "I am a dear little baby. Please love me and cuddle me and read me lots and lots of stories." "That baby looks peculiar to me." "All babies are beautiful." Mrs. Deer picked it up and cuddled it at once. Then she popped it into the laundry basket, which was just the right size for a bed. But no sooner had she put the baby down than it let out a great big roar. "I think it's hungry," said Mr. Deer. "Babies usually are." But the baby didn't want cheese, and the baby didn't want toast, and the baby didn't want cabbage or cucumbers or cauliflower. What did the baby want to eat? "We must get Uncle Duncan," said Mrs. Deer. "He's bound to know." "A baby? A dear little baby? Well, I shall come at once." "Babies need milk," said Uncle Duncan. "You must warm some up immediately." But when Mr. and Mrs. Deer came back, how very peculiar, or odd, or weird. Uncle Duncan had disappeared, and the baby was still roaring. "Oh, what's that smell?" "Ew," said Mr. Deer. "I think this baby needs changing. We must ask Auntie Agnes. She generally knows what's what." "A baby? A dear little baby? I shall come at once." "Diapers," said Auntie Agnes, "and clean towels and special ointment too. Now run along and fetch 'em quick as you can." But when Mr. and Mrs. Deer came back, how very peculiar. Auntie Agnes had disappeared, and the baby was still roaring. "Oh, poor little baby," said Mr. Deer. "Whatever shall we do?" "Perhaps," said Mrs. Deer, "it isn't feeling well. We must call Dr. Fox to come and take a look." "A baby? A dear little baby? I shall come at once." "I shall need peace and quiet to examine the baby," said Dr. Fox. "Now run along, you two, and leave everything to me." Mr. and Mrs. Deer ran along and waited and waited and waited. But the baby went on roaring. They had to know what was happening, so they tiptoed in and... How very peculiar. Dr. Fox had disappeared, and the baby was still roaring. "Oh no," said Mrs. Deer. "What shall we do now?" "Granny Bear," said Mr. Deer, "will know exactly what to do." Granny Bear came at once. She took one look at that poor little, dear little, roaring baby and said, "I know exactly what to do. This baby needs burping. and she picked up the baby and patted it and patted it and patted it until burp. It was really very peculiar. Out came Uncle Duncan, and out came Auntie Agnes, and out came Dr. Fox too, and none of them looked the least bit pleased. "That is not a dear little baby," cried Granny Bear. "That is a little monster." And it was too. Then it took to its heels and away it ran. Roar! And they never, ever, ever saw it again. As for Mr. and Mrs. Deer, well, they found themselves a sweet little kitten to love instead. The end.
When a Monster is Born by Sean Taylor and Nick Charette. When a monster is born, there are two possibilities. Either it's a far away in the forest monster, or it's an under your bed monster. If it's a far away in the forest monster, well, that's that. But if it's an under your bed monster, there are two possibilities. Either it eats you, or you make friends and take it to school. If it eats you, well, that's that. But if you take it to school, there are two possibilities. Either it sits quietly and does its homework and becomes the first monster to play on the school's basketball team, or it eats the principal. If it sits quietly, well, that's that. But if it eats the principal, there are two possibilities. Either it growls, "Yummy," and dances the boogie woogie, or it growls, "Sorry," and stomps off through the wall. If it dances the boogie woogie, well, that's that. But if it stomps off, there are two possibilities. Either it sits in the park and scratches its head, or it takes a deep breath and sets off for the faraway forest. If it sits in the park, that's that. But if it sets off for the faraway forest, there are two possibilities. Either it finds an expensive hotel and decides to sleep in it, or it goes around to the back of the hotel, finds a broken umbrella, and sleeps under that. If it sleeps in the expensive hotel, well, that's that. But if it sleeps under the umbrella, there are two possibilities. Either a kitchen girl comes out and tosses a saucepan of porridge over the monster's head, or the kitchen girl notices the monster and stops in her tracks. If the kitchen girl tips the porridge, well, that's that. But if the kitchen girl stops in her tracks, there are two possibilities. Either the monster gives her the fright of her life, "Roar!" and she runs out shouting, "Help, help, help!" Or the monster gives her a rose and they fall in love. If the girl runs off shouting, "Help, help, help!" well, that's that. But if they fall in love, there are two possibilities. Either she kisses the monster and he turns into a handsome young man, or it kisses her and she turns into a monster. If the monster turns into a handsome young man, well, that's that. But if the girl turns into a monster, there are two possibilities. Either the monster says, "Ugh, you look horrible now," or the monster says, "Look, I'm a monster, you're a monster. Let's get married." If the monster says, "Ugh," well, that's that. But if the monster says, "Let's get married," there are two possibilities. Either the two of them live happily ever after and have a baby monster, or they eat each other. If they eat each other, well, that's that. But if they have a baby monster, there are two possibilities. Either it's a far away in the forest monster, or it's an under your bed monster. The end. Join us next week for some more great stories.
Bye.
Goodbye.